Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are going to break down how you can turn your regular kitchen scraps into pure garden gold by raising some of the most unusual and definitely the quietest livestock you will ever own.
All right, let's just dive right in by completely rethinking what the word livestock even means. Seriously, forget about acres of land, forget about noisy animals. We're talking about a totally silent, super compact alternative that literally lives in a single storage bin and eats your garbage.
Now, there's a technical name for this whole process. It's called vermiculture. But really, at its heart, it's just a simple, but believe me, incredibly powerful way to use a special kind of worm to create a super fertilizer for your plants, right in your own home with barely any effort.
Okay, first things first, we've got to get this set up right. And this isn't just about grabbing any old box. It's about choosing the absolute perfect residence and then building them a home where they're actually going to thrive.
Now this is the number one question that beginners always ask, and I can't stress this enough. Getting this answer right is absolutely crucial. It's literally the difference between success and failure right out of the gate. So, can you use garden worms? The answer is a hard no, a definite no, and it's not just a suggestion. It's because they're fundamentally the wrong tool for the job. Here's why. You have to understand, these two are completely different animals. The worms in your garden, those are nightcrawlers. They're loners who like to burrow deep down in the soil. If you crowd them in a bin, they'll just die. But red wigglers, they're the exact opposite. They're social, they live near the surface, and they are eating machines, which makes them absolutely perfect for this.
So the good news is their home does not need to be fancy. A simple plastic tote is perfect as long as it has these three key things. First, it has to be opaque. Dark plastic. Worms hate light. Second, it needs ventilation for air. They breathe through their skin. And third, you need some way for excess water to drain out so things don't get soggy.
Now, if you remember one thing about their environment, make it this. We call it the sponge rule, and it's perfect. Their bedding needs to be moist, but not soaking wet. The best way to get it right? Just picture a damp sponge. If you can squeeze it and a bunch of water drips out, it's way too wet. And what is this bedding? Well, it's not just dirt. It's actually their home and a big part of their diet. Shredded cardboard or newspaper works perfectly. All you do is fill the bin about halfway with this fluffy, damp material, and just like that, you've created the perfect place to introduce your new herd.
Okay, so their home is all set up and ready to go. Now let's talk about what to feed these little guys. Just like with any farm animal, what they eat is totally key to keeping them healthy, happy, and, productive.
You're gonna love this. Their diet is actually really simple. Just think of them as picky vegans. They go crazy for fruit and veggie scraps, coffee grounds, and even crushed up eggshells. But, and this is a big but, you have to avoid all meats, dairy, and oils. Same goes for really acidic or stinky stuff like citrus and onions. That'll just make the bin smell and can even hurt the worms. Now, here's the secret to doing this without any problems. Never, ever just toss food on top of the bedding. You always want to bury the scraps under a couple of inches of that bedding. Why? Because that simple little step prevents any bad smells, and, more importantly, it keeps pests like fruit flies from ever even knowing your bin exists. All right, so you've housed them, you've fed them for a few months. Now it's time for the big payoff. It's time to harvest the amazing, nutrient-rich fertilizer they have been working around the clock to create for you. So how long does all this take? Well, you can expect to wait about 3 to 4 months for that very first harvest. You'll know it's ready when you look in the bin and see that most of the original bedding has been turned into this dark, rich, earthy material. And that material is called vermicast, or worm castings. But gardeners, they just call it black gold. And for good reason. This stuff is way more than just fertilizer. It's a living soil amendment packed with microbes that help your plants soak up nutrients and fight off diseases. It's a total game changer. So, how do you separate the worms from this black gold? It's actually a brilliant low-tech method. You just dump the whole bin out onto a tarp under a bright light. Since the worms hate light, they'll naturally start burrowing to the center of the pile to get away. You just gently scrape away the outer layers of the finished compost, wait a bit, scrape some more, and eventually all you have left is a wiggling ball of worms ready to go back into a fresh bin and start all over again. All right, let's head into our final section and quickly cover a few common issues. Don't worry, these are all super easy to solve, and knowing them will make sure your little worm farm stays healthy, odorless, and productive for years.
This little guide basically covers 99% of the problems you could ever run into. And you'll notice a pattern. If the bin smells bad, it's probably too wet. Solution? Add some dry bedding. If worms are trying to climb the walls and escape, yeah, it's probably too wet or maybe a little too acidic. The fix? Add dry bedding and some crushed eggshells. And fruit flies? Well, you already know the answer to that one. Just bury the food a little deeper. See? It's that simple.
You know, this quote really gets to the heart of it. It's why this is so rewarding. Your little herd just works around the clock, silently turning something you were going to throw away into one of the most valuable resources a gardener could ever ask for. So there you have it. That's the complete blueprint. The only question left is the fun one. Once you have this non-stop engine producing free, homemade fertilizer, what are you going to do with it? Which plants? Which vegetables? What part of your garden will you transform first?